Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name's Amanda and this right here is Milo and he's going to be the star of today's video. I'm autistic, I have ADHD, I also have total aphantasia, which means that I don't visualize in my mind's eye, and I have a memory disorder called SDAM that stands for Severely Deficient Autobiographical Memory. And that means I don't really create autobiographical memories of my life, but I do have some episodic memory, so I can remember some of the things in my life. I go into much more details. Check out the playlist if you're interested in any of these topics. So, like I said, this is a Milo and he is my son's service dog. And so I've been wanting to make a video about autistic service dogs for a while, and he's being pretty chill today because it's hot here. I live in the Pacific Northwest and we've been having like 80s degree Fahrenheit, getting up to 90, but not close. And then last 2 days have been over 100. So we're all really hot and we're just trying to stay chill and cool. But so a little bit about Milo. So he is an Australian Shepherd Poodle mix. And hello, yes, he's like, wait, why are you talking about me? He's highly trained, and I'm going to go into a little bit about that. He is the sweetest, most gentle soul ever, and our family is just so lucky that he is a part of our family. So last fall, my kids and I all got diagnosed with autism and ADHD. And right away, I asked my son, would you think a service dog would benefit you? And it was a resounding yes. Y'all might have seen Watson, our pug, on a few other videos. Watson turned 6.5, he's about 6.5. So he turned 6 earlier this year. And I actually originally got Watson to be kind of an unofficial emotional support dog for my son, because even back 6 years ago, before we had a diagnosis, I just kind of could sense his deep connection with animals. And I thought having a dog to be a friend for him would be a really good help. Watson pretty much bonded to me. He didn't make the greatest emotional support animal. Like if I needed an emotional support animal, Watson probably would be there. Like he just bonded to me. Like sometimes you can't choose that. And even when you get service dogs, sometimes they will do something called wash out. We were very lucky because that's very nerve-wracking, because the whole service dog process can be very expensive. Back it up a little bit. So yeah, we got the diagnosis and I was like, okay, I'm going to start researching and looking into getting you a service dog. Now, my daughter also got diagnosed autistic, and so did I. I don't really, I like dogs, don't get me wrong, but I don't want, like, a service dog would not be beneficial to me. I think service dogs, we should have way more service dogs in this world, okay? Like I am very 100% pro service dogs. They should not be a scarcity. We should have them everywhere. But I'll get into that more. And at the same time, I wouldn't want one. Not my cup of tea. And same thing with my daughter. She's like autistic, but to have a service dog is a lot of work, and you have to be able to do the work or be willing to do the work. And she was like, no, thank you, not interested. But my son, Eira, was like, yes. So I started doing some research. Service dog schools for psychiatric service dogs are expensive. They range, the cheapest one I think I came across in the US was $20,000 for a service dog. And they had like a 4-year wait list or something like that. And most of them cost around $40,000. And that is to the individual to pay. Most of them, would say, oh, do a GoFundMe or something like that for a service dog. And that was just like not in the realm of possibility for us. Like just that wasn't gonna happen. So I did some more research, and the other option is something called owner training. And so, and again, if y'all are watching me from another country, I don't know what your laws are. So this won't apply to you per se. But in America, under ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, you can owner train your service dog. And so we decided to look into that route. And so I contacted a bunch of different local dog trainers to see if I could find one that would train a service dog and if they'd had an experience doing that. And I actually found this lovely trainer, and she used to train service dogs before the pandemic, and she stopped doing it during the pandemic. And so we were going to be her first client. And so we were talking with her, and she also was autistic ADHD. So it was like a perfect fit. I'm pretty sure she said she was autistic ADHD. I know autism for sure. Anyway, we were a perfect fit, and she just hyper focused on it and started researching like dogs. And ideally, we wanted to start with a dog that wasn't a puppy, because then we could just skip ahead of that time. But there's pros and cons with going with a puppy. If you go with a puppy, you can work on that bond more closely and like throughout its like little baby stage, but then it's going to take longer before you have a full service dog, because, you have to get to that like adult age of dog. But if you skip the puppy years and all of a sudden you're looking for a 1-year-old dog, then it's like, why is this 1-year-old dog available? Because, a lot of people adopt dogs when they're younger, and when they're getting rid of a 1-year-old, there's usually maybe some problems with the dog. So we were crossing our fingers, but we weren't sure what we were going to get. Well, she came up with 3 potential dogs from doing research and looking for like dogs for sale kind of pages. And he was like an hour and a half out of town, and she was willing to drive and do an evaluation of him. And he was just under 11 months old right then when she found him. And it was basically a family that had bought him for their kids for Christmas. And then they realized that, Aussie Doodles need a lot of work. They are very, very smart dogs. And the family just did not have time to give him the energy and mental like work that he needed. He really needs to be stimulated. This boy is a workaholic. You wouldn't be able to tell it right now, as he is being lazy right now. All working dogs deserve downtime and puppy time, but he loves. I'm surprised with me saying the W word that he's not running to the door, except he's so smart. He knows that I'm not actually saying it like as in a let's go do that right now. But normally if I was to say, you do want to, like, I'm like mining it, because if I said it in that energy, he would be out the door ready to go. Right now he's wanting me to keep rubbing him. And for my blind viewers, I'm sorry, I don't think I described him, that he's like almost solid black. He's got a couple little white flecks throughout, like pepper, and then he's got a white marking on his chest, but otherwise he's solid black, which is pretty unusual for an Aussie Doodle. Okay, so going back to when we found him. So she did, I think you might have just heard Watson snore. He's on the other side of me. So she did an evaluation of him. I wasn't with her. I could not go with her that night to do the evaluation. So I was putting all my trust into her opinion on him. So I don't know exactly all the tests that she did. She brought her dog with her, so she could see how he reacted to a stranger dog. And then she ran him through a bunch of just like obedience tests to see if he had any basic obedience down at 11 months old. And she I think did like really loud noises around him to just see what his startle response was and things like that. And then she called me up and she said, I think this dog is the dog. She's like, I I just have a really good feeling about him. And so we're like, okay, let's do it. Let's do it. Oh my gosh. So then we jumped into, well, she actually had him at her house for the first 2 or 3 weeks to really just go into some super duper like hardcore obedience training. Again, like he had some basics down, but like for a service dog, you need to get the obedience down pat. And so she had him at her house for a while. And then after that, we were going to pay per session, and we were going to meet 1 or 2 times a week and then do our training homework, every single day. And sometimes, it was like 5 or 10 minutes a day. Like the training isn't always excessive. Like when we had our 1 hour sessions once or twice a week, and then the other days, sometimes we're 10 minutes, sometimes we're half an hour, sometimes we'd spend another hour, right? Like, well, unfortunately, after about a month of training with her, she had a sudden family emergency, and she ended up moving out of the state. And it was really like a lot going on, but it, can't fault her for her emergency. And she worked with us to try to find a trainer, which was very difficult. But I was also looking, and I ended up finding another trainer who had never worked with service dogs before. But when I told her the different tasks that we wanted to train him for, she felt confident that she could do that. If we needed scent training, so he's a psychiatric service dog, but they also have dogs that do like allergy. So if you're like allergic to walnuts or something, and so you have scent training with that, or there's certain other scent trainers that help detect like seizures and things like that. Like she would not have been comfortable helping us with those kinds of tasks, because those are a lot more in depth. But for the tasks that we required, they're just like another layer of obedience, honestly. So we met we thought we were going to do this for a year, because oftentimes when you're owner training a dog, once they're about a year old, it can take up to a year for them to get their obedience and all their tasks down pat. But this boy, again, workaholic, he loves it, and he is so smart, and he's learned so much. And it's still ongoing. Like we're still training him. It's not like we graduated him and then we're done training. Like we still train every day. But we just don't meet with our dog trainer anymore, unless we wanted to like work on something specific again, or brush up some skills or something like that. Like she's still available to us. But now we consider him a full service dog. There are no certifications or anything like that in America to be a service dog. It's just a store owner can ask, is this a service dog? You say yes or no. They cannot ask you what your disability is. And then they can ask, does he have tasks that he performs? And you tell him yes, that he has tasks, the store owner. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what Milo's tasks are for right now. And we might actually add in more, but to be a service dog, I don't remember if it's 2 or 3 that they're required to know. I'm a little fuzzy on that, but one of his main tasks we call the alert task. So Eira, when he is very stressed, he will start stimming in a harmful way. And what that is he will start scratching. Sometimes he'll do it for me too. He'll do it for Eira, but so anyway, Eira will start scratching on his skin like this. He's like, you're not my, so that's what he'll do. Good boy. Yes. Good boy. So service dogs are 1 per person. So like he is not required to tell me to not scratch. And honestly, it's really better for him to only be doing it for Eira. But sometimes like I will be scratching at a mosquito bite or something, and he will do it. So Eira will scratch without realizing it until he actually will bleed. And so obviously this is a bad thing. And so when Milo sees, yes, good boy. Yes, I'm not done scratching. Thank you. When Milo sees Eira scratching, he is supposed to interrupt him. Okay, you are getting playful. Here, where's your Sharky? He will interrupt and make sure that Eira stops scratching. And then depending on what else is going on, he might go into his next task, which would be deep pressure therapy. So a lot of times he stems by scratching when his anxiety is high. So then to help lower his anxiety, Milo will do deep pressure therapy and he'll lay across his body and just kind of, he also is a fidget in a way, like being able to pet him is soothing. And hi, you're so cute. You are so cute. And so it just helps the panic attack subside and can then like ground Eira into like being able to put himself in a safe position. So for instance, one time he was at the library with Milo, and he was going to go into a teen event that was happening. And we got there just a couple minutes late, and the door was open and the event had already started. And that caused Eira to start to have a panic attack because he didn't want to walk into the room after it already started. So he was standing outside the room, kind of like nobody in the room could really see him. But so Eira was standing there and he started to have this panic attack. He started scratching. Milo jumped up on him, made him stop scratching, made him like sit down on the floor and crawled in his lap, calmed him down. And then he was able to call me because I was out in the car because he's a teenager, right? Like he can be in the library by himself. I was out in the car and then I was able to come out to me. That was right after my foot surgery. I was able to drive, but it was not easy at that time for me to get out of the car. So I was so thankful that Milo was there to keep Eira safe and get Eira back out to me to the car. And so that was good. He did really good works that day for sure. Yes, he's like, why do you keep saying that word? Because we're talking about you. That's who we are. Yes, we are. He just got groomed 2 days ago. He gets really, really long fur. Boop. And then one of his other tasks that he does is called block. So this doesn't really bother me, but a lot of people with autism, and my son also has a comorbidity of OCD, and so I think this plays into the OCD some too. When he is in a store, he doesn't want someone to come up behind him and startle him. So like when we're like, for instance, when you're at the grocery store and you're looking at the items and you're trying to figure out what you want, or you're shopping for clothes and you're going like this, Eira wants Milo. He does a command called block. And so he basically stands right behind Eira. And this way, I was trying to think if I have footage of that. I think I do. And if so, I'll insert a little clip here of Milo doing his block. It kind of keeps a buffer between strangers and Eira, which will make him not have as much anxiety in the store. So that one was obviously, it's really easy task to train to, but it is so incredibly important because that command made it where Eira actually felt comfortable to start going into places by himself. Before that, before we had Milo, you all done? Before we had Milo, Eira really resisted going into any store by himself because the anxiety of just being with strangers was so high that it would put him in basically a shutdown and like verbal shutdown, and just like, yeah, just to the point where he couldn't go. He like his body just, he could not go into a store by himself. So ever since having Milo, Eira has gained a lot more independence and being able to go into places with his service dog. So that is good. One of the other tasks we might train to the future, we were going to, but it just, okay, so my son is on ADHD meds, and so we were going to have it where Milo either brought his medicine to him every morning, because ADHD people, we struggle with taking our medication. I don't have any meds right now, but if I did, it's hard to remember to take them because of executive functioning disorder. And so you can train a service dog to bring the bottle to you at a certain time every morning, or you can train them like if an alarm goes off, because we'll swipe those alarms. Like people are like, why don't you just set an alarm? No, we'll swipe them without realizing we swiped it away. Alarms are a good tool, but our brains will override those alarms. We have so many alarms set throughout the day that our brains learn to ignore them. But you can't ignore a dog that's like telling you to get your medicine. So we started to task train him to an alarm to get his meds. But then I don't remember exactly why we decided not to pursue that one at that point, but it's something we might add in again later. But that's just an at-home service dog task. It's not one that we need for out in the public. But anyway, so oh, and then he has like cute little vest. And so we have a sticker that says service dog, but my son actually wanted the one that says autism on it because it made my son feel better if people understood that he's an autistic service dog. That's definitely a personal choice. You do not have to label your dog autism service dog. That actually just was something that my son requested. So that's why we put it on there. I'm trying to think if there was anything else. So yes, as far as costs go, because we did owner training, the cost of the dog, if I remember correctly, I think we paid around $500 for an Aussie Doodle, which is, about right, especially because he was a year old. I think that's actually cheaper than what you normally can get them for. They are very highly intelligent work dogs. Like, he has to keep his brain stimulated or he gets so bored. And then we paid for that like 2 weeks of board and train, which that was a big chunk of upfront cost, I think was around $2,000. Like, I don't remember all these costs. But that was a big chunk of money. And then we paid about $75 per session. And like I said, we were doing those mostly once a week, sometimes twice a week. But we did not have to go for a full year. So it is still very expensive. And this is not anything that insurance helps with or covers. This is up to the individual. But doing the owner training, we could spread out the cost. And it was a lot cheaper than obviously the schools that also, again, even all of them had like very long wait lists. And even when he wasn't a full service dog, he was still service dog in training. So that allowed him, we still were able to go into some places, like any store that is puppy friendly in general, like a Home Depot, a Lowe's, Michael's craft stores here. We were able to train with him and practice with him. And that already helped my son, just having him, even though he wasn't a full service dog at that point. So we were able to have access to the dog faster than if we'd done a service dog school. And of course, we have to keep his immunizations, his vaccinations up to date because he's in the public all the time. We have to keep his fleas up to date all the time because, again, public. And, we feed him a really nice quality of food because he is a working dog. So, yeah, they are not cheap, but they are an amazing, amazing accommodation. And I wish that more insurances would help pay for them. And I also wish that they were just more accessible. I wish there was more service dog schools for various disabilities, because they add so much value to a disabled person's life that would benefit from having one. And not all disabled people would benefit from a service dog, but the ones that would, they are amazing. Anyway, I will answer any respectful questions, and I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Until the next one, bye guys.